All right, guys. So you might be wondering what we're waiting for. We're not waiting for a baby. Sorry to disappoint you all.
Yeah, definitely not.
We mentioned this on a previous video once, but we've been in this season of just like waiting, and we went to a church in Orange County, and we just really both felt like God was calling us to be there at that church. And it's funny because we had been Tommy's always wanted to live at the beach, so that was like a given and easy.
Yeah.
But we had been talking about it for like a while, just how like hard it is to meet like friends here because we live in a place where there's a lot of older people.
Yep.
And like we just like really desire to be around like young families and like people with kids, just people that we could relate to. You know?
Yeah, at our same stage of life.
Yeah, exactly. So we felt like God called us to this church. And I mean, I don't even know how long it's been.
It's been a month.
Months? Okay.
35 days.
It's like forever.
Yeah,
And we've
feels
just
like
been
years.
praying, like, God, like, how do you want to get us there? 'Cause
Yeah.
Tommy has a job that has to be in a certain location.
Yeah.
And so we don't know whether that's through this YouTube channel, through our blog, through Tommy's YouTube channel. Like, we don't know, like, how or if
No
God's
idea.
just going to drop money out of the sky.
Yeah.
And we have just been praying, God, like, get us there, show us what you want us to do, give us the faith to like make it through this period
Totally.
of waiting.
Yeah, and it's been really hard, honestly, because like having patience when you pray is a really difficult thing to do. And it reminds me, shout out to Mark Francie at Oceans, he talked about Moses, right? And you might know the story, the Israelites and the Red Sea parting, and the Israelites like go through the sea. Even if you're not a Christian, you probably know of the story, right? Well, the story starts off with Moses. He fled from Egypt because he killed someone, and he was in like the wilderness or the desert for 40 years, just herding sheep, tending sheep, just all through this like desert area, right? And you think, wow, 40 years, like what a waste of time, right? Like, why didn't God just like help him save the Israelites from slavery right away? Like, why the 40 years? Well, come to happen when the Israelites fled from Pharaoh in Egypt, the millions of them, the wilderness they went through was the same wilderness that Moses was actually tending sheep through, and Moses knew every rock and crevice and spot to go, and just how ironic, and it's not even, sometimes things feel like coincidences with God, but it was no coincidence. God had him in a season of preparation to learn that wilderness and lead sheep, because all of us could be like sheep, like a lot of times, let's be real. And he had him prepared. So when that moment came, he was able to walk in the plan that God had for him. And I have to remember, because I could just get very discouraged, and I get very down. And I'm like, well, what's the purpose, right? Because like I'm in real estate, and it's great because it's commission and it's very flexible and stuff. But I'm just like, I don't want to just make money to make money. Like I feel like I want to do like ministry. I want to just serve others. And that's why we're making these videos, because God's like touched our lives, and we want you to experience the same thing. And I feel like we're in this season of waiting and being patient, and it's been really tough.
So we've had a lot of discussions together about like, why do we keep praying when God's not answering our prayers?
Yeah.
Like we keep saying like, God, get us there.
Yeah.
And it's easy to get discouraged and think like, okay, like does God not want us to be there? Like why isn't he answering us? But we have a strong conviction that he wants us there.
Yeah.
But I really like actually what, of course, Mark Francie said. He said, prayer always carries us back to God. And so like, God tells us to pray because it gives us this in with him. Like we're talking to the person who created us. We're talking to the person that loves us, that wants the best for our life, and what better way to like align our will with God's than praying and talking to him
Totally.
every day.
Sometimes we have to remind ourselves of verses like this, and this is the confidence that we have toward him, that if we ask anything according to his will, he hears us in 1 John 5:14. And whenever you ask in prayer, you will receive if you have faith. Matthew 21-22. So all these different things, it's really rooted in faith and belief. And you've probably heard this verse in Hebrews 11:1. Faith shows the reality of what we hope for. It is the evidence of things we cannot see. So we have faith for these things that we cannot see. Of moving to Orange County, we're going to need a house. We're going to need money. We're going to need all these things. And we don't know how it's going to happen, but we believe God will do it, and we'll see that happen. So really, I don't think it matters. Like sometimes I find myself lacking faith, and I think I have to realize that it's not my power, it's God's power. And I have to realize that it's okay to like sometimes lack faith, ask God for more faith, and also realize that it's God's power that's making this stuff happen, and it's not you. Like it's not like a performance thing. If you like don't pray enough, then it won't happen. Like God did things like in the Bible with the centurion who was asking for God to come to heal his servant, and he wasn't even, I don't even know if in the Bible states he was a believer, and God healed his servant. Like, so you don't have to be some super Christian for God to answer you in prayer. You just have to believe, and you keep believing, and you don't stop praying until things change.
It's funny because I was thinking, like while you're talking, that God uses these times of waiting to build your faith, right? Like, so all this time of waiting, like every time God answers our prayer just a little bit, gives us a little bit more information, it builds our faith, right? And it's funny because I think like, we keep praying because we have faith, but we only have faith because he's done this again and again with us, right? I was thinking like,
totally.
I don't doubt that God's going to do this, that God's going to take us there, and that he could do all these things, because I've seen so many times in my life where like I had faith and God delivered, even recently, like I'll pray a little prayer and like God answers it, and I'm like, wow God, like thank you. And it's like the more you pray, the more you see God in every little thing, and you see how many things he does for you. Like earlier I was praying for like a title for a video, and like I wasn't praying first, and I was like searching, and then I was like, okay, Holy Spirit, like please help me, and I like clicked go, and it was like excellent, good, great, and I was like, okay,
the SEO
God. Like it's just funny, like the more you pray, the more faith that you have in God, because you see how many times he answers you, and he gives you, like, not gives you what you want, but when your will is lining up with him.
Yeah, totally. And I think the will lining up with God's will is very important, because you ask, well, like, my brother has cancer. Like, why isn't God healing him? And like, first off, like if God answered every one of our prayers, like we would be God and he wouldn't. Like it'd be like a genie. And also we live in a fallen world. When Adam and Eve ate the fruit, sin came into the world. So like, childbirth, and like men, like when they would toil the ground, it would be like hard work. Like our entire universe changed when sin came into it. That's why like milk goes sour and bad, and like you have to water the grass 5 times a day out here in the desert. So like you got to realize that like sometimes bad things happen, and it's not God doing it. Like God's not the one letting these bad things happen, and maybe you pray for something that's a really good thing, like someone to be healed, a family member, and they pass away. Don't think that God doesn't love you or doesn't love them, and that he doesn't care, because he does. It's just like we're not going to understand everything that God does, because he's outside of time, space, our whole world here. And sometimes we won't get the answers we think we want till the other side, till we get to heaven, I think.
It's funny, we were talking about that song by Garth Brooks, Unanswered Prayers. And it's so true. If like you'll go listen to that song and you'll understand, because if you think about, I don't know how old you are, but if you think about just 5 years ago or 10 years ago, things that you were praying for, like for me, when I was in high school, it was like, God, like, I want to be with this boy, or I want to be this, like, and if God had answered those prayers, like, where would I be now? Like, I wouldn't have Tommy, I wouldn't have my
Hudson
cute
and
little
Thomas.
kids. Like, and as you grow, you realize, like, oh, thank you, God, for not answering that prayer. Thank you for not saying yes to that.
Totally.
Because God does, like, know a lot better. And he has so much better in store when he doesn't answer that. Praying
is praying, God, I believe you can do this. I believe you hear me. I believe you see this. I believe you can do this. Like, you're for me. But if you don't do it, you're still enough, and you're still good, and you're still someone I'm going to follow and live my life for, because you've done, like Samantha said, all these things in the past that have been good. So it's like, just because you don't do that thing, God, I'm not going to like not follow you anymore. I'm just going to keep praying and keep seeking after you. And you know what? By the time, like, 20 years of praying that same prayer, like, you might not even want to pray it anymore, because God might change your outlook on something. We started doing these videos because we believe that the family vlogs, we love them and we like sharing our lives with you, but we felt like God wanted us to do this. And we had a heart for like really telling you guys our faith and why we believe in Jesus, because he's been so good to us. And just recently we've grown 12 subscribers in the last month. So make sure you hit that subscribe button right there with the bell to be notified, and the like button. Because honestly, that hasn't happened. We've been posting for months and months with no growth, and we just start doing these faith videos, and God's been like confirming that with us, that it's working. And you know what, even if it didn't work, even if we gained no subscribers, just the fact that maybe you have something you've been praying for, keep praying for it. Don't stop.
And tell us in the comments below what you're praying for, so we could be praying.
Totally. Put in the comments what you're praying for. We appreciate you watching this video. If you have any questions, if you want to know more about Jesus, we would love to help you. Send us an email, and
Jordan Fan.
Jordan Fam out. See you later.